There's a lot of nutrients in that. The white of the watermelon has a ton of nutrients in it. I think there's more potassium in the white of the watermelon. My favorite is strawberries. Why do we cut off the tops of strawberries? There's no reason. And in fact,
there's no reason?
There's no reason. No.
Cue music. Places, everybody places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com and, of course, from UnderstandingAutoimmune.com, and we're closing in on 500 shows. So I'm really excited about that. You know what? I'm still trying to decide to do what for the 500th. So if you have any thoughts or comments, put them down in the comment section here and let me know, because I want to celebrate it, but I still haven't figured out how. So who knows? We'll get going. But we're going to celebrate tonight too, because we have a return guest. I just love her and what she does, and her name is Dr. Dana Cohen, and I'm going to zoom in really close. Sorry guys, I have to read her bio because it's pretty amazing and I don't want to lose any part of it, because Dr. Cohen has been practicing integrative medicine for over 25 years, and she's currently in private practice in Manhattan, nationally renowned internal and integrative medicine specialist. That's hard to say, Dr. Dana. Whose multidisciplinary approach has helped successfully treat thousands of patients. Dr. Cohen trained under the late Dr. Robert Atkins, author of the iconic Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution, as well as Dr. Ronald L. Hoffman, a pioneer in integrative medicine and founder of the Hoffman Center in New York. She has an amazing bio here. She's also the author of a book that we talked to her clear back in 2018, Quench. And that was just really wonderful. It was all about hydration. If you haven't had a chance to read it yet, I really found it groundbreaking for me, and understanding hydration was more than drinking a glass of water. And now she's back with a brand new book that we're going to talk about. So welcome back to the show, Dr. Dana. It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been too long, dear. I know I follow you on social media and everything, so I can see all the things you're up to, and it's very exciting. I know you have this brand new book out. That's exciting. I'm going to get the title right to it here, so let me bring that up too. It's called Fuel Up: Harness the Power of Your Blender and Cheat Your Way to Good Health. And Dr. Dana, you had me at the word cheat.
Oh, I love it. I'll take it. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, exactly. I think everybody knows that especially with my diet, I have been known to do really good for a long time, and then I don't know, something inside me just has to cheat. So
Okay, so let's unpack that, because first of all, diets don't work. And what I've learned in my 28 years of practicing medicine is that diets don't work. And
that makes me feel better, because I wondered why I kept failing at them.
not only do they not work, they mess with our heads, because I'm somebody who worked for Dr. Atkins, and putting people on an Atkins diet or a keto diet or whatever you want to call it now. Yeah, it works for the short term. But then when you go off of it, you're yo-yoing, and the weight is coming and going. And if you're not doing it exactly right, then you're actually on a really unhealthy diet. So I know firsthand that diets don't work. And I want to just clarify the way that we use cheat cheat is not a bad word. Cheat is a really good word. Typically we think of cheating as, ooh, I'm cheating, I shouldn't be doing this. This is all good. It's all additive. So we want to teach people how to eat. If we can teach people how to eat normally and real food and good, clean, whole food, then I will have done my job.
And I
Yeah,
love the book, and I agree. My cheating is different than your cheating because your cheating soothed my psyche in a way of that, oh, I can have good, tasty stuff, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I'm going to use my husband as an example. He's allowed me to do this. So he knows one diet and one diet only, and that's an Atkins diet. That's all he knows. That's the only thing that ever works for him. But the truth is, I've known him now for many years, and he does not know how to eat normally when he goes off the diet because he thinks that when he eats sugar, he's cheating and his brain is all messed up and fruit's not good for him because it's carbs. So he has to learn what the one diet that works for him and know how to modulate when he's not on, because nobody can follow an Atkins diet lifelong or any diet or any restriction lifelong, except for if it's a real medical thing like celiac disease or something like that. The bottom line, and this is the whole premise of the book, the bottom line is that we need to get ultra processed foods out of our diets. And every step of the way, we give you little cheats or hacks or whatever you want to call them, how to up level your nutrition wherever and whenever you can. Because we're all going to have birthday cake at somebody's birthday. We're all going to have diet soda once in a blue moon, whatever it may be, it's going to happen. So if that happens, then how do we get back on track? How do we get right now we're more than 50% ultra processed foods in all of our diets. How do we raise that percentage a little bit and have less ultra processed foods? We're going to all have some ultra processed foods in our diets, but how do we shift that so that our bodies are getting better nutrition and nutrients and real food as nature intended us to eat?
I think that's the critical thing. And I appreciate that you allow a little bit of ultra processed food because I know I travel like you a lot. And there are times that ultra processed food in the carry on luggage is the best option out there at that moment.
Yeah. I will say I've been doing this a long time. There's not a single, I don't want to, I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but most of the health professionals that I know don't necessarily eat 100% of the time perfectly. None of us do. So we have to live in this world. We have to enjoy ourselves. We need to pick our poisons, so to speak. So I'm not giving people free range to do that. And honestly, my dream is to get this book in the hands of people who have never picked up a health book before, people who don't understand or can't diet. Let's just be normal and let's just eat real food. Let's start there. Hydration, start with hydration first, always. We talked about it with Quench. So now this is taking a step further. So how do we eat real food? How do we clean up our diets as best we can? It's not just a smoothie book. So although there's plenty of smoothies in the book, we give recipes for condiments, for cocktails and mocktails and desserts and breads even. So there's a lot of things that we can do. So harness your blender. It is a blender book because the blender is, first of all, almost every household in the United States has a blender in their house. I think it's something like 96 or 90% of households own a blender. It's
Oh, wow.
fun. It's fun. It's easy. And think about it, like it's almost impossible to put junk food in a blender. Like you're only putting real food in a blender. You're not going to put cake in a blender and blend it up with fruit unless there's something wrong.
I want to take a step back because it's been since 2018 since we've had you on the show. Talk a little bit about the basics of hydration, and then we'll get into why smoothies are good for you as well. So let's just backtrack a little bit to those who missed that opportunity in 2018 to hear you talk about hydration.
Learning how to optimally hydrate is the single most important thing you can do to treat and prevent chronic disease, period. Hands down. Mic drop. That's a really important statement, right? Hydration is not necessarily drinking water, although that's part of it. We need to be eating real food, whole foods, fruits, vegetables. Take what we're eating plays a role in hydration, as does movement plays a role in hydration. Sleeping plays a role in hydration. Our environments play a role in hydration. So meaning if you're sitting in an air-conditioned office with all these, what do you call those lights?
Although
Fluorescent lights on us, and we're sitting at our desk all day, eating takeout and drinking alcohol, you're the worst possible thing you could be doing for yourself. We want to learn how to hydrate optimally. It's different for every person. The 8 glasses a day doesn't necessarily jive with everybody. It's very individual. We need to learn what our set point is for hydration, and I will tell you exactly what that is. We are meant to urinate every 2 or 3 hours during our waking hours. So meaning we need to be getting up during our day every 2 or 3 hours and peeing. And if we're not doing that, we're not hydrating enough.
That's
That
a
is
good way to keep score.
the single most important thing to do to know that you're not dehydrating. It's not looking at your urine, although we did talk about that in the book. We've changed our minds on that because it's okay, but it's not a great test. And we don't have a great way of measuring hydration. So we want to eat real food. We want to eat more fruits and vegetables. We want to exercise. We need to move, and we want to drink some water. So look at your urine output. Start your day with a big glass of water, 8 to 16 ounces, and then you may need some more during the day. I like to throw some things in. I usually tell people have a glass of water before every meal, 10 minutes before every meal. Just suck it down. That's an easy sort of rule to get a few more glasses in. And then you may need more, or if you're eating well, you may not need more.
Couple quick questions about water before we jump into the blender part of the story. I was told to drink a glass of warm lemon water in the morning, like real lemon juice in water in the morning. Does the temperature of the water have any effect on the absorption?
Yes. So if I were a Chinese medicine practitioner, I would absolutely say yes. So I don't know as a medical doctor, I don't think there's any research that shows that. Although I honor and cherish and see Chinese medicine practitioners, it's a very different kind of medicine than I practice. What I say is do whatever it takes to get you to drink that water.
Okay.
So if you only like ice in your water, so be it.
Okay.
But yeah, there may be something to the hot and the cold, according to Chinese medicine. I don't know.
Okay. Then the other part of that is the lemon. I guess it changes the pH of the water. I'm not sure what it does, but does that help absorb it, or is that just like only if you like it?
No, I think so. The pH, it turns out, may not have any effect. These alkaline waters, we don't know. There's still no great research to say the pH is going to change immediately when it hits your stomach anyway. But I think the lemon does add some extra minerals and vitamin to that water, and it makes it taste good. So I do think that there's something to the lemon more for the electrolytes, that it can be giving you a little bit of electrolytes. I even tell people to put a little pinch of real salt in that morning water just to give you even more electrolytes, sodium and chloride and other minerals. But you want the full spectrum, good salt, like pink salt or something like that.
So what is the difference between the salt and off-the-shelf electrolytes? I've seen powdered electrolytes in like multiple ways.
Yeah, salt is cheap, is super, super cheap. So if you don't have the privilege of buying these over-the-counter electrolyte mixes, salt should be able to do. It's definitely going to be a much, much lesser concentration. And the electrolyte replacers, many of them, I'm on the board of one called Cure Electrolytes. They follow the World Health Organization of electrolyte replacements. So there are very specific numbers that follow. You want to be careful and make sure there's no other added ingredients and sugars and artificial colors and those kind of things. So some of those are better than others, but sometimes all you need is a little pinch of salt.
That sounds simple enough and easier for me to understand than figuring out all those labels for the high price things. Thank
I
you.
will say though, if you're an athlete, especially even a regular person, if you really struggle from dehydration, or you're an athlete, or you sweat a lot, you're like a big sweater, then you may, or perspirer, then you may want to use one of the, they're not that expensive, but for somebody that maybe needs it more, an electrolyte replacement is a better way to go.
Oh, okay. Good to
Yeah.
know. Good to know. Okay. Thank you for clearing up and bringing us up to date on the latest on hydration. So let's jump into smoothies. Define a smoothie for everybody so they know if that's possible. Because in your book, there was, I don't know, 100 recipes or more. So
I define a smoothie as this. It's a blended greens with whatever else you want to put in there. So blended with water or whatever liquid you want to put in there, and then whatever else is icing on the cake, so to speak, right? So fruits, you could put some seeds or ginger, lemon, whatever, yogurt, then that starts to make a more of a meal. But a smoothie is a blended versus a juiced drink, right? So when you're juicing something, you're removing all the fiber, you're removing all the stuff, and you're just getting the juice. You're squeezing out the juice versus a smoothie is something that's just blended. So that's the difference. The other thing I will say is the book, yes, it has over 100 and something recipes, and it's not just smoothies. Like we have recipes for condiments, a great recipe for a gorgeous steak sauce in there that has horseradish. There's unexpected ways to use your blender. There's ice creams, there's desserts, there's mocktails. There's lots of different things that you can do with your blender. So it's not just smoothies.
Okay, fantastic. Now, a couple of really basic, simple questions that I just might be too basic, but things like carrots and stuff, if they're washed and cleaned, do you have to peel all your fruits and veggies to put them in if you've washed them and made sure they're nice and clean and pesticide free?
No, and in fact, it's better that you don't. It turns out that the carrot tops, the greens on your carrot tops, have a ton of nutrition. And I think we have some recipes to use those to make some pestos. And the peel, so the peels on your ginger, even those little ginger, it's so hard to peel anyway. Don't
Yeah.
bother, throw it all in. It's not going to change the flavor of it, and you're getting more nutrients. It turns out that nature, that's where the nutrients lie, in the peels and the piths. So put some of the whites of if you're eating citrus fruit, eat some of that white stuff. There's a lot of nutrients in that. The white of the watermelon has a ton of nutrients in it. I think there's more potassium in the white of the watermelon. My favorite is strawberries. Why do we cut off the tops of strawberries? There's no reason. And in fact,
There's no reason?
there's no reason. No.
I don't, I guess because grandma always did. You're right. I have no idea. I've never tasted one. I don't know.
Next time you get a strawberry, clean it really well, eat the whole thing. You do not taste the greens of the strawberry. And there's a ton of nutrients in there. And especially throw them in your blender because you definitely won't taste it then. But yeah, there's no reason. And we have another whole section on that. That's a cheat right there. That's one way to up level your nutrition. And it's a cheat in so many ways because it's not only cheating for nutrition, you're getting more nutrients, but less food waste, right? Less stuff that's going in our, hopefully, compost, but if not, it's going in our landfill. So a couple ways that's cheating. Beet greens are the tops of many of those things are usable, and we should be using them. And we give you some nice ways to use them in the book.
I'm glad you do. I've tasted the watermelon white. I'm not sure what that is. I don't like the taste of it, but I imagine if you had it in there with a lot of other things, you'd get the nutrients without just it tasting like the rind.
Yeah, so if you're eating watermelon, sure, you want to just eat the nice, delicious sweet part. You should try to get a little white on there, but if you can't, so be it. But if you're making a watermelon blend, then throw that white in there. You won't taste, it's all going to be sweetened from the other part of the watermelon. You won't taste it. But yeah,
No, I
you.
like that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Because I've always known like the part right under an apple, you shouldn't peel because that's where all the good stuff is. And yet so many times to put in a pie or something, you end up peeling it. So I love that idea that you get all the good parts without that sort of, to me, I don't know, like a watermelon and an orange, that white part is always tastes a little more sour than the rest.
Yeah, it's not as sweet as the watermelon for sure.
Yeah. So as you were going through this, what was one of your favorites?
One of the whole impetuses for me writing the book was, so I have a co-author, Colin Sapphire. He invented the NutriBullet, and he now has a new blender out called the Beast, right? So for years we were trying to figure out how to work together, and he's got all these colonisms, that I call them colonisms, and he's so beautiful the way he speaks and eloquent. And so we were trying to figure out how to work together. And one day I said, Colin, do you want to write this book? And the reason I said that is because there's a steak sauce. There's a very famous steak sauce that I buy, and I love this steak sauce. And I love it because there's horseradish in it. It's the only reason I love it. I love the taste of any vehicle for horseradish, I love. And for some reason, which I always look at labels, I never looked at the label on this one, and I decided to look at the label. And I look at it, and the first four ingredients are four different types of sugars and 1,000 other, and a bunch of other ingredients, some I couldn't even pronounce the names, and high fructose corn syrup being one of them. And I was like, the only reason I like this is the horseradish. Why can't I just make this? And I started with ketchup and horseradish, and then I helped with a friend who's a cook to help me really create a better recipe. So I love that recipe. That's a cheat then. You're making this on your own, and it's got a bunch of other nutrients in it, onions and tomatoes, and so that's up leveling your nutrition in just a condiment. And imagine if the more you keep doing that, eating real food, making real blends, the soon your health is just, you're going to really notice a difference in your health the more that you keep doing this.
I think you bring up a really good point, though, is what I want to call these mindless things that we add, pre-made salad dressing, sauces.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm not sure I've ever read the labels. So you got this nice organic salad, and then what are you putting on it?
We talk a lot about salad dressings in there too. Yeah. The whole idea is just to get people thinking, looking at labels, thinking, where can and it's all additive. We do not talk about diet in the book. There is no diet, there's no deprivation, because we meet people where they are. And if you can just, at every step of the way, up level your nutrition a little bit, soon the ball is rolling in the other direction. Right now, most of our diets are 50% ultra processed foods. If we can start to really change that ratio, I think we're going to make a huge difference in our overall health.
Absolutely. Now, a quick question. I've been reading a lot about the different kinds of powders, and maybe they're not as healthy as we think, whether it's the green powders or the protein powders or whatever, that idea. What's your thought on these additive powders, and can we make them ourselves?
I don't know how you would make a powder yourself. I don't know what you mean by that.
I was just wondering, like food dehydrator and then blending it or something. I don't know. I'm just wondering if there's a way to get some of the, or do we just use the fresh greens and call it good?
Okay. All right. Great question. Thank you. Number one, best to always eat real food. However, protein powders, I have a whole line of powders that's coming out. I don't even know if you knew this before we had this, but
No, I didn't. Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. It's my Quench line of products. So it's all powdered to make our lives easier. And we do have a whole section of the book that discusses specifically protein powders. And the truth is, we do want to get our protein best from food. So it's hard to put protein in a smoothie, though. Like, how are you going to? It's very hard. But we figured out some ways, and we give all those ways: hemp seeds, cottage cheese. We even have a recipe for chicken salad in a blender. There are ways to get protein.
Hey, I didn't see that one.
It's a little, we're going to put it in, but it's fun. But protein powders are, I think, a good thing, especially in this crazy world, grab and go world that we live in. Once again, meet people where they are. So I have a powdered green blend that's coming out. It's just powdered greens. Everything's organic in there. So first of all, you can't even but it's got 1,000 things. There's the things you want to look for: no grasses, no fillers in these powdered greens. And the truth is, I think like it would be especially great for kids who hate eating greens, right? I'm not a mom, but I've had many parents that can't get my kids to eat greens. This is great. It tastes really good. Like, what a great way to sneak greens into your kids' drinks. Or there's many people that don't eat enough greens and they know it. So there are reasons and places for these powders, and I am a fan. So that's my thing. But always first, eat it from Mother Nature.
And then always check the label to make sure you're getting the real stuff. Now, when you say no grasses, is that even things like wheatgrass and stuff?
Yeah, wheatgrass is a fillery thing. It's not a lot of nutrients in there.
I remember years ago, it was a real craze to take like a shot of wheatgrass. And I don't know, every time I did that, which was like 2 or 3 times, because I said, no way. I always flash back to my childhood mowing lawns. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Smell was
Yeah.
more than I could tolerate.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, and there's a lot of new powdered greens out there on the market. So definitely look at ingredients, make sure there's no other additives, no sugars. I have a greens and a fruit blend, and there's no sugar in there. So you want to also make sure they're not adding sugar or fake sugar. The fruits are sweet enough, and it really does taste, I think, delicious. The problem with mine, I will be honest, is that the color is, because it's greens and fruits, it's a little almost mud-like. So if you're giving it to kids, they may get a little turned off by the color, or they may love it. It tastes great is the important thing.
You could always put it in one of those glasses or those mugs
Cover it up.
that's got a opaque color to it
Exactly. Cover it up.
and a straw so they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So as we go about our day, we're not talking about replacing all our meals with this, right? This isn't like
Absolutely.
just going liquid diet.
No, thank you for asking that too. Absolutely not. We need to chew. We need to sit and savor our meals, eat with people. And so much so, we actually give a couple of recipes in the book on how to roast a chicken, how to poach a fish, because we've lost the art of cooking. So,
Oh, absolutely.
yes, it's mostly a blender book, most of the recipes, but we have a handful of recipes on just some basic cooking tips because we've lost that art of cooking. So yes, we do need to eat real food, and it's not, and we definitely don't want to blend each and every meal because we need to chew as well.
So like a fine wine, we have a specific blender drink that goes with the poached trout or something like that. Should we come? And tonight it's spinach and kale and
I
beet.
love that. I'm gonna have to now go back and do some pairings and see. I love that, but that's a great idea.
Oh, because that's what was the first thing that came to my mind. So when I got my poached trout, I would know exactly that if I added, whatever these ingredients, it would be a savory opportunity.
There are blended sauces for the chicken and the salmon that we do say pairs well with this chimichurri sauce or whatever it may be. Yes, we do have those.
But now I was thinking of the smoothie. This is what you drink with this, like
Yeah.
a fine
It
wine.
might even be too much though, like a smoothie then with a big meal. I want you to have a salad with that meal. You don't need a smoothie on top of your meal. It's not all like that. I will say one of my other favorite things in the book, this is my apps, and this was solely my idea, not Colin's, are these things we call salad shooters. When there's leftover salad, it never stays well the next day. It's pretty gross and slimy. Think about blending that in a blender and doing a shooter that you could do as a snack or before something. Like it's just a great way to consider. And it may or may not be good. It depends on what's in the salad, but it's definitely worth trying. So less food waste. What a great way to get extra vegetables in as a little snack. So I love that whole little section on salad shooters.
Now, I was thinking about the leftovers. How long will a smoothie stay good? Can we blend it in the morning and pack it off to lunch, or how long does
You can. Ideally, a smoothie you want to drink right away, especially because things start to oxidize and not be so good. But you can for a few hours if you need to. And we give like for the sauces and the condiments, which have other things in them, like olive oil or something like that, they stay a little bit longer. And we looked at the expiration dates, but we erred on the side of caution. So if you make a sauce or a condiment, it can stay maybe 5 days in your refrigerator in an airtight thing. Smoothies are best eaten fairly soon after you make them, but they could stay for a little while as well. I don't have an exact time. I don't think it's a great idea to blend the night before for the morning. I would prep, cut everything, have everything, and we talk about prepping in the book too, anything to save time, that kind of thing. But then it takes 2 minutes to throw it in the blender.
Okay, fantastic. We're talking about 2 minutes. We need to take a quick 2-minute break. And when we come back with Dr. Dana Cohen, we're going to talk some more about the health benefits of real food. Wow. As well as smoothies, which is really exciting because I think it's a great way to get kids introduced into fruits and vegetables. So we'll be right back.
The Autoimmune Hour will return after these messages from our sponsors. It's great sponsors like these that keep this show coming to you every week. Be sure and stop by understandingautoimmune.com to learn more.
Times TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler, and I'm here with Dr. Dana Cohen, and she is the author of the wonderful book Quench, as well as the book Fuel Up. I'm going to read the subtitle here. Harness the power of your blender and cheat your way to good health. And she's been talking all about smoothies and sauces and other great foods that we can create from scratch that have really good nutrition and not all of the fillers in the junk food that are in ultra-processed foods. And so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was, I guess, making it a habit. Part of it, the reason I'm always attracted, as I said, to ultra-processed is the speed of use. But how do we convince ourselves to make it a habit, have all the foods that we need on hand, and as you said, prep them the night before? And what tips do you have for us to build better habits in our health?
I think that habits take, what's the word, where you're doing it over and over again.
Repetition.
Yeah, repetition. Thank you. Gosh.
I know, it's late.
We try to make it as easy as possible for you. So we even give you ways to clean your blender, like how to make these things easier for you so that you don't have to worry about the timing in the morning. There's just so many things. And then food prep and doing, I think habits come from liking what you're doing, feeling better. And so having it being sustainable and doable, right? And really understanding then why ultra-processed foods aren't good for us. I'm going to just give you a real example. We wrote this in the book of my life of using something of how I quit smoking cigarettes because I was a smoker. I was a smoker since I was a teenager, and I smoked for a very long time, and I quit smoking when I was probably in my late 30s. So I smoked for close to 20 years, and I saw a psychologist who specialized in something called harm reduction. Are you familiar with that term?
I think I know what it means, but what's your definition?
The harm reduction psychotherapy, it's actually a wave of how therapists are working towards with drug addiction and alcohol addiction and substance abuse. And so basically it meets people where they are, right? So there's no judgment. There's no judgment. It's just complete compassion, understanding where people are, and then making little steps in the right direction. So for me, when I went to this therapist, I told him that I was a smoker. I was a holistic doctor, and I felt my self-esteem was this big with every cigarette that I smoked. And he said to me, he said, imagine if you lived in France. This would be a non-issue. Everybody smokes in France. This wouldn't even be an issue, like for the self-esteem part. Mm-hmm. But he said, what's your favorite cigarette of the day? I was like, oh, it's the one after dinner. I want you to go home. I want you to enjoy that cigarette. And so basically he took the self-esteem off my shoulders. And within 2 weeks, I quit smoking. And it's very interesting how our minds work. And that is just a very simple kind of thing. We don't even go into that in depth, but we talk about harm reduction and meeting people where they are. And we have to stop judging ourselves. Yes, we have to stop judging others, but stop beating ourselves up. I think I said this earlier too, the book, there's no diet, there's no deprivation, right? We're all going to eat some ultra processed foods, right? So the idea is once we start just planting that seed, how can I up level this meal? What can I do better? It starts to always become thought. Like even me, even in writing this book, I now look at labels even more closely. And this is something I've been doing my whole career and saying, I don't really need that. I don't need that. There was a yogurt that I really liked. I started getting a better yogurt that has less ingredients. These are it takes education, it takes compassion, and it takes repetition.
I liked your idea of harm reduction. My guilty pleasure is sugar, and just the
Thank
idea,
you. Thank you for, like most people. Yes.
and just the idea. I like that idea of what is my favorite time to have a bite of something that's sweet. For me, it's after dinner too. I can go the entire day of work, but something about a little treat after dinner and before bed, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's like a comfort thing. And I
Yeah.
love that idea. Okay.
And if that's your thing, start playing around with some better choices of what that treat is going to be. Rather it be some, I don't know, Twizzlers or something. Now maybe consider making something better or healthier and seeing if that does it and working at what can be a better choice, how to up level that.
Well, what I think I'll do is make mini shooters of some of your sweeter, like the citrus smoothies in there.
Yeah.
And
Well, we
you
have an
have
ice cream.
you have ice cream recipes in
Yes.
there
We
too.
have desserts in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot you can do. That's the thing. You have to make an effort. It does take a little bit of effort too. So it's putting some thought. I'm sure if you Google healthy sweet treats, you're going to find 1,000 recipes of something like, oh, you know what? That sounds great. Let me try that. It doesn't have to be a blended thing, but it's just thinking about it and putting a little bit of action towards it.
I'm going to go tangential on you for really quick though. What about alternative sugars? I've read so much about they're all bad, and then some people say, oh, but this one's okay. So what
Yeah.
about alternative sugars?
When you say alternative sugars, so I'm going to just name brands: Sweet and Low, Equal, Saccharin, Splenda. Those need to go. They're not good for us, and they mess up our microbiomes. I think that there's enough research that I can say that. As far as other sugar substitutes, stevia is good. Lohan or monk fruit is good. And then there's a newer one called allulose, which is really proving to be almost even healthier, like it may improve blood sugar. And that was a small study that was done. So there's some interesting research. But allulose, as far as I'm concerned, tastes incredible. It tastes just like sugar. And it's widely available now. I don't know if it's in the grocery stores, but it's easily gotten. And then there's also maple syrup and honey. Those are better choices than table sugar.
I'm a honey fan. I'm glad you bring that up. What amazed me when I go to Europe, how multiple varieties of honey there are, like from the blackberry plant to the raspberry plant to whatever. It's amazing. I love honeys. And only recently now at my farmer's market did I meet a beekeeper who has probably a dozen varieties of honey. And what
Yeah.
surprises me about honey is that the depth of multiple flavors. I love to cook now with honey because it's sometimes it tastes savory and other times it's very sweet depending on how the bees produced it. But
So interesting. Yeah, I'm
yeah, I'm
gonna
not a big fan of honey.
That would be a really nice thing. You know how they have like olive oil tastings now? Like you could do, like, instead of wine tastings, you could do an olive oil tasting. I bet there's like honey tastings now you could do, which would be nice.
You
I
go
mean,
to my local farmer's market, he actually has little sticks and he'll tell you, he'll say, what kind of foods do you like? And he'll like the wine, he'll go, this will pair with
okay.
that.
Oh, I love it. I think that's fantastic. I love that idea. I think
Oh,
that's
talking about olive oil, we have just about an hour from my home, we have an olive farmer, I guess they're called. I don't know
yeah.
what they're called. And he has an old stone grinding oil thing. And so every October, November, you can go down to his farm and they'll be making the olive oil from their summer stock. And I had never tasted fresh olive oil like right after.
Yeah.
Wow, talk about polyphenols.
Yes. Yes. So great. So great. I did an olive oil tasting when I was in Italy and it was an incredible experience. It's when, and for anybody who's never had really good fresh olive oil, it's so different. It's so fresh and vibrant and bright and almost bitter too. Sometimes you feel those polyphenols doing their work.
Yeah. He was great. Like I forget the particular kind of olive, but he said you get this little paper cup worth like a little dab, and he said, "Now throw it all the way back." And I was glad I did because it was so strong. But what amazed me about it was it really taught me what olive oil is,
Yeah.
because now I read about all the adulterated olive oils, and now I'm reading about adulterated avocado oils too, which is so disappointing that it's
Yeah.
so hard to know. But I was that was fun to actually taste honeys and have such a wide variety.
Yes.
To me,
Yes.
honey was always honey in the little plastic bear, and I have discovered a whole new world of honey, as
Yeah.
well as now a whole new world of olive oil.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, so honey is great. We don't talk about this in the book because once again, no diet or deprivation, but if you have blood sugar issues that may pose a risk for you, speak to your doctor, obviously. It's hard, we're speaking to everybody, but by all means, honey is a far better choice than table sugar.
The thing that surprised me about sugar is you mentioned in that sauce that you liked, it had all these sugars in it. And that's the thing that understanding the labels is the different ways that sugar is labeled. It doesn't always just say sugar or
Yeah.
table sugar. It can be labeled in many different ways to understand really what it's telling you is how much of that is really sugar.
Yeah, there's a few things, and it's interesting as I experience and age and learn, I do better. I learn better and I can say things better. Once again, that whole diet and deprivation, we have to be very careful about how we speak, right? There's a few things that I am very much the hard rules, right? So one is trans fats. We really want to get trans fats out of our diet. We all know that, I would hope, at this point. High fructose corn syrup. So that's a sugar that we don't need. If it's on the label, try to get rid of it. Once again, if you're going to have it once in a while, so be it. But those are two things. The other thing is, alcohol. This is the thing about alcohol. We all have, once again, we have to pick our poisons in this world. If you like to have a cocktail every so now and then, sure, fine, so be it. However, the research is showing that we should all be striving for zero alcohol. So those are like the three big things that I'm a little bit of a stickler on, and make sure that you're hydrating well. That's something that you have to stay on top of day in and day out, almost hour by hour. Like you need to make sure you're hydrating enough, not too much, not too little. And whether that's either drinking your water or eating your water, that's something that you need to stay on top of. Your diet can be a little fluid, so to speak. Like I said, we're not going to all eat perfectly every single day, but if you strive to push the nutrients, push real food, you are going to be so much better off in the long run.
Fantastic. I'm going to go tangential on you again because this came to my mind, especially with smoothies. What about adding dairy? I know you mentioned yogurt and things, but we'll just say milk versus alternative milks. I've read all sorts of research about different types of alternative milks and which ones are better than the others. And then I'll also read the label for emulsifiers. Part of me just wants to say, oh, shoot, just have milk.
I get it. I totally get it. I will say, in my experience as a functional medicine holistic doctor, many people are sensitive to dairy. And I do think that as we get older too, we lack the enzymes that it takes to break down dairy as well. I think that we lose those enzymes. A little bit of dairy is probably okay in many people, but I just for those reasons alone, I don't think that pure milk in your smoothie is a great idea. I think for the nut milks and for those things, more for the protein content is going to be better. And yeah, you should look at labels. There's lots of good ones out there that are just a few ingredient nut milks. They do exist. The coconut water, coconut milks, those are good. They definitely have flavors, so you got to find what you like. But the truth is, you can make your smoothies with water. It doesn't have to be milk. It doesn't even have to be a nut milk.
That didn't ever dawn on me because I've always been the one that adds yogurt. I like the thickening
Yeah.
agent.
Then it's becoming a meal. It's not becoming a drink. So as a breakfast, then yeah, you could definitely add a little yogurt or cottage cheese for protein, like a little bit better protein, those kind of things. If you're not sensitive to dairy, which is a problem in many.
Yeah, exactly. I have family members that are extremely sensitive to dairy, so that's important to know. So we're down to just about the last 5 minutes. You're just such a wealth of knowledge. I love talking to you. I love the book. It's fantastic. Everybody, I'm going to tell you the name again. Fuel Up, Harness the Power of Your Blender and Cheat Your Way to Good Health. Any final thoughts and tips? And then tell us more about where we can get the book and even tell us where we can find Quench too, because that's an amazing book. That changed the way I viewed hydration.
So make your breakfast a smoothie. That's a great habit to really try to start to strive for. And think about what you're eating for breakfast now and how can you up level that, and think about what you can put into a smoothie to get more fruits and vegetables and fiber.
We got a couple minutes, so give us your best shot on fiber.
None of us get enough fiber. So what's a great way to do it? Blend up some vegetables and fruits, right? That's a real good way. If you know you're not getting enough, and if you having GI issues, and you definitely want to start slow, but you can put powdered fibers into your blends, is what we call them. And there's so much information about fiber feeding our good bacteria, helping prevent colon cancer, keeping our bowels going smoother. You do want to be a little careful if you're not used to it, though. Start off slow and make sure that you're hydrating enough if you're adding any kind of fiber. So you want to make sure you're drinking enough water to help the fiber go through you easier. But yeah, fiber is super important, and none of us are getting enough.
Is there specific fruits and vegetables that are higher in fiber, or are they about the same?
No, I think there's definitely some. The first thing for some reason that flew into my mind are pears are very high in fiber. There's a good fiber fruit.
It's funny you mentioned that. Years ago, he's since left our earthly plane, but I had a chiropractor friend who would always say when pear season was here, he was handing out pears like Halloween candy.
Love pears. I just love the taste of pears. Yeah, they're really a delicious fruit. And yeah, I think we're coming into the season.
Yes,
So
we are. And if you're lucky enough, I think just a little side note, if you're lucky enough to live where they grow, one of my favorite things to do now with my grandchildren is go up to the orchards and actually pick the fruit. I'm telling you, they're much more likely to eat it if they just took it off the tree.
so fun. Sharon, I'm going to tell you, I have people in my life who have these incredible, amazing gardens. And they really are amazing. And these are like some extraordinarily wealthy people. And honestly, there's nothing that brings them more joy than going to their garden in the morning and picking a fruit and eating it. And anybody who's ever picked your own fruit, like it is the most joyful thing that you can do. I can't explain it until you've done it. So yes, go pick the fruit. If you can grow one fruit thing. I lived in the city. I lived in Astoria. I had a blueberry bush on my terrace. And it was the greatest thing in the world to pull off a few blueberries in the morning and eat it. So if you can't do that, you could, an on over the counter herb garden is so satisfying and fun. But yes, you're exactly right.
I have a dear friend who lives what I'll call in a food desert, and came up here and went apple picking with us one fall. And now he says I've ruined him because he's become an apple snob. And so
I love it.
I
Love
said, yeah. So when he goes and finds apples in his location, he said they're never the same. And I'm like, what? You'll just have to come back up here during apple season.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Well, Dana, it's always a pleasure to see you. I'm so excited for your new book. It's called Fuel Up, everyone. It's a great book, and it's not just about smoothies, as Dr. Dana mentioned. It's got lots of great health ideas, and we can all do with fueling up our bodies better. I think that's the one thing that I have learned in this decade of doing this show is that food really is the quickest way to heal. Having the right foods and understanding diet and nutrition. That's really important. And you are always a wealth of information, my dear friend. And everyone, I had gotten a little pre-release copy, and I know the book is coming out October 6th. Is that right?
Sorry, October 8th.
October 8th. Okay, I was speeding it up, everyone, because it's a great book. Please pre-order her book if you would, because it really helps drive those algorithms to get this book up there to maybe, let's cross our fingers, number one. Absolutely, to help everyone fuel up and really up level your nutrition so you'll have your best life. Where's the best place to pre-order? Is that on your website?
Amazon, just Amazon.com or Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
Anywhere, yes. If you go to my website, though, you'll get some free little gifts if you send your book number, your order number, that you'll have some recipes before you even get the book. So Dr. Dana Cohen, and follow me on Instagram at the same, at Dr. Dana Cohen.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's DrDanaCohen.com.
Yes, perfect.
Dr. Dana Cohen. So everyone, pre-order the book. Let's drive sales for her and get that book out there to the masses who need it, so everybody's can really enjoy long life and health and actually good food while we're in the process, enjoying what we're actually eating. So everyone, have a great week. Whatever your adventures, join me next week for another brand new episode Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.